Vamos assistir isso aqui, meu parceiro. Pra quem não sabe, é um canal JCS Criminal Psychology. Pô, mano, eu gosto pra caralho. Inclusive, era um dos motivos de eu querer muito fazer tanto o direito quanto a psicologia. Era pra trabalhar com a psicologia forense, certo? Então eu acho muito foda como o investigador, tipo, cara, detalhes do que ele fala, detalhes de como a pessoa age. Cara, detalhes, velho. Detalhes, detalhes, detalhes. E eles conseguem pegar os detalhes. Pô, eu acho muito foda. Muito, muito foda. Deixa eu ver se tem. Dá pra fazer uma legenda traduzir automaticamente. Vamos tentar lançar um Portuga, né, bicho? Claro que isso é só pra quem não aprendeu inglês das ruas, né? Pra quem aprendeu inglês das ruas, isso aqui é claramente desnecessário, tá? Então, se você curte esse rolê, é um vídeo de 57 minutos. Inclusive, já deixa eu até falar aqui no começo, Luanzitio, se tu for editar esse vídeo aqui depois, tu pode cortar ele em parte um e parte 2, beleza? Porque eu imagino que esse vídeo vai ficar longo pra caralho. Fechou? Então, bora lá.
At exactly 3:25 p.m. on April 8th of 2009, the dismissal bell rang at Oliver Stevens School in Woodstock, Ontario, and hundreds of grade schoolers were seen leaving the premises. Yet one
Pô, não
8-year-old was
tem muito o que
captured on
falar sobre esse
surveillance
bagulho,
leaving
tá
2
ligado?
minutes later than the rest, as she had to run back inside to get her mother's butterfly earrings that were left on her desk. Her name was Tory Stafford, and on that Wednesday
Pesado, hein?
afternoon,
Hoje
she never
aparentemente vai
returned
ser
home. She was
pesado o bagulho.
reported missing by her grandmother at exactly 6:04 p.m., and a missing persons investigation was launched immediately. Roughly 7 hours later, surveillance footage from a local high school was discovered, capturing what police say was the missing child, walking side by side an unidentified woman. Tory did not appear to be struggling in the video, and the woman was described as between 19 to 25 years of age, white, 5'2", and about 125 pounds with a black ponytail. The local police made a public appeal for the woman in the video to come forward, and Tory's grandparents offered a $10,000 reward for her return. A Facebook group dedicated to finding her gained over 20,000 followers in under 24 hours. On April 12th, 4 days after her disappearance, hundreds gather in Woodstock at 8 p.m. to hold a vigil for Tory, and her mother makes a tearful televised appeal for the return of her missing daughter.
Mano, deve ser uma sensação muito ruim tu ter alguém desaparecido, velho. Porque tu não sabe se a pessoa tá viva, se a pessoa tá morta, ela pode estar qualquer coisa, velho. Caralho, deve ser muito, muito ruim, velho. Deve ser uma esperança muito ruim, tá ligado? Por um lado.
Over the
Caralho.
following week, Tory's parents are interviewed by investigators, and each of them pass a polygraph test. Police call off ground searches 6 days after the child's disappearance after finding no clues nor leads. The day after, America's Most Wanted features Tory's case as its top story. On April 17th, the Ontario Provincial Police take the lead in the investigation, and the ground searches recommence. The case was then officially classed as an abduction, not just a missing person. They step up a media campaign by releasing a composite sketch
Doideira os caras conseguirem fazer um rosto do ser humano só
on
com...
social media and local
Só
news
com...
outlets. On May 19th, police attain information that the woman is 18-year-old Terry Lynn McClintock, who is already in custody for breaching a probation order for a previous drug violation. She was transferred to the Ontario Police Headquarters and interviewed at roughly 5:30 p.m. by Detective Sergeant Jim Smith.
Caralho,
She
essa parte
initially
é muito
denied being the woman in the
foda.
video and claimed to know nothing about the missing girl, but roughly 45 minutes into the interrogation, she breaks.
I think it goes right back to what you've said a few times. You didn't want to see it, okay? But that doesn't change the fact that you saw it, okay? And that's what you need to be truthful about. And I know it's hard to talk about. I know it's even harder to talk about than the sex part of it, okay? But you saw it.
Uma camerazinha, hein,
You
bicho?
know you saw it.
Uma
You
camerazinha.
need to talk about that.
When I seen Mike with Tory on his lap, like I turned my head because I didn't want to see it. I could hear her calling my name.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
She describes in disturbing detail the abduction and killing of Tory Stafford, stating that she lured the girl into a secluded parking space with the promise of showing her a puppy. She was then forced into the back seat of a vehicle that immediately drove away. In the driver's seat was 28-year-old Michael Rafferty, who then drove to a secluded area about 100 miles north of Woodstock.
que
He then proceeded to
bizarro,
sexually
que
assault and then
bizonho.
murder the 8-year-old, with the fatal injuries being 4 strikes to the head with a claw hammer. McClintock drew a rough sketch of the area where Tory was killed, which eventually led police to discover the girl's remains. She was found with lacerations to her liver and 16 broken ribs, but her eventual cause of death correlated with Terry's testimony, as was confirmed to be the result of repeated blows to the head with a blunt object. At 7:55 p.m. that evening, Michael Rafferty is arrested and informed that he is being charged with kidnapping and first-degree murder. He is read his rights and then brought to the police headquarters for immediate interrogation.
Pô, isso eu acho muito doido, velho. Lá nos Estados Unidos, toda vez que tu é preso, irmão, tem o direito de saber teus direitos. Eu acho isso muito doideira. É obrigatório. Inclusive, se eu não tô errado, eu posso estar errado. Se o cara não falar quais são os teus direitos, acho que, não sei se depende do crime ou enfim, qual é o rolê, tu acaba sendo liberado, velho. Porque tu tem que saber quais são os teus direitos quando tu é preso. Eu acho isso muito doido, velho. Muito doido. Agora que começa a doideira. A doideira já foi, né? Eu acho isso muito curioso. Tem que saber o teu direito, senão tu literalmente é solto.
That'll unfold, so that's a blanket for you there, okay? Tea, I think they might have only put one sugar in, I think they got it mixed up. And there's a plain donut there for you, I had a cereal bar, but if you get hungry or anything else, just let me know, okay? Do you have any, you haven't eaten since noon? Okay, are you hungry now? I can get you a full meal if you want.
Okay.
Bacon and eggs, or do you want something else?
I'm too sick to talk.
Okay.
This is ridiculous.
That's okay, you can listen, and if you have any questions as we go along.
Isso é investigação criminal.
I got a few things I'll talk.
Basicamente, isso aqui é tipo como o investigador, enfim, a pessoa que está encarregada de investigar, né? Às vezes nem sempre é o investigador em si, mas enfim, policial, o perito, né? Às vezes até psicólogo, psiquiatra, enfim, pessoa que é formada e vai para a área da psicologia forense, né? Da criminologia, eles começam, tipo, aconteceu um caso e eles estão investigando para saber quem é. Nesse caso aqui, eles já sabem quem é, eles sabem que é esse cara. Mas muitas das vezes, aconteceu um crime e ao redor disso, eles começam a investigar todas as pessoas que estão ali ao redor. E aí eles começam a pegar as versões das pessoas. E aí eles começam a perceber um outro detalhe, um jeito de falar, um jeito de agir, sabe, uma baixada de cabeça. Cara, é bizarro assim. E dali eles começam a puxar mais linha, tá ligado? Pô, isso é muito bom, pô. Muito maravilhoso, eu diria. É tipo uns metaforando, velho. É daí que começa, tá ligado? Eles têm muita noção de, pô, comportamento. Esqueci como é que é. Leitura fria, tá ligado? Que é como tu começa a ler a pessoa. Mano, é muito, muito foda. É um metaforando funcionando, tipo, na prática, digamos assim, né? E a partir daí eles vão puxando mais coisas. Eles não analisam microexpressões. Eu acredito que eles analisam também, mas mais num todo mesmo. Muito bom, é muito bom.
Chris, my last name is Long.
Eu provavelmente vou trazer muito vídeo disso, porque eu acho isso muito foda.
And your name is Michael. Now, do you go by Mike or Michael? What's your preference?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. I'll probably call you Mike.
E assim, diferente do que as pessoas pensam, é bizarro como a pessoa que tá aqui, normalmente ela trata que tá lá com muita educação, velho. É bizarro. Porque eles sabem que isso influencia também no rolê que tá acontecendo, né? Na entrevista, digamos assim. É muito foda. Tem que ser muito frio, irmão. Tem que ser muito frio. Fica à vontade. Mano, o maluco tá sentado na tua frente. Desculpa parar mais uma vez, rapaziada. Mas o maluco tá sentado na tua frente. Ele agrediu uma criança sexualmente e depois matou. Se tu falar pra mim que tu não queria ser esse maluco pra sentar ali Nossa, velho. A porrada nesse arrombado. E o cara tem que tá ali, ó. Tentando manter o... Tá maluco, doidão. Que isso? Que isso?
Okay, Mike, like I said, don't be shy. You'll find I'm pretty relaxed, pretty laid back, because I've dealt with these types of issues before.
The Ontario Provincial Police have a highly trained behavioral sciences unit, and their subdivision of forensic psychiatry is recognized as one of the best in the world. At first, you will see the familiar strategy of rapport development. The investigator will retain a friendly and...
Rapport nada mais é do que você espelhar, um beijo no coração aí do Frecinha, meu amigo. Rapport nada mais é do que você espelhar. Você sem, tipo, tá ligado? Você fazer a outra pessoa se sentir confortável na sua presença. A ponto. Isso, mano, É muito pica, pô.
Almost nonchalant disposition throughout the opening phase of the interrogation. The perception of solidarity and respect will make the suspect more likely to cooperate
viu?
and take things into
É isso.
consideration,
É
while the
exatamente isso.
detective's easygoing disposition will also downplay the severity of the crime, thus making the gravity of admission far less intimidating.
Anytime that you have a,
Em resumo, ele, né,
don't be shy.
é extremamente agressivo o que o cara fez. Ele, pô, ele violou sexualmente uma criança e matou. E o cara tem que fingir como se fosse um bagulho muito mais suave, pra que o cara possa assumir a culpa, né? Pô, é bizarro, pô. Tem que ser muito frio, velho. Poxa, tá tolo, pô.
Tory staff were witnessing. I know you were following a little bit in the media, and you'd follow some little bits and pieces that there was behavioral sciences people involved, right? And sometimes they were criminal profilers. There's been other members in there as well. Threat assessment, and that's what one of my roles is as well. In threat assessment, what my job is to determine the risk. Okay, what's the risk of a certain situation? Now, the situation that we're talking about is you're going to find here that there's nothing you're going to tell me to surprise me. Okay, for two reasons. One, I've heard a lot of this stuff before. The second reason is I'm fortunate enough to know what all the case facts are. Okay, so what I have to do is assess what I perceive is a threat. So are you going to go out and kill more people after this situation is done? Okay, that's what my job is, to assess threat level. All right, I already know you're
Basicamente o cara tá vendo se ele pode voltar pra sociedade, irmão. Pô, bizarro isso. Surreal. Pra mim isso é um delírio coletivo.
Staff Sergeant Chris Loam had been a police officer for over 21 years and was a member of the Behavioral Sciences Unit for the last 17. At the time this interrogation took place, he was the head of the analysis section. This meant he was in charge of criminal profiling, threat assessment, and forensic psychiatry. He indicates that his only purpose is to assess the suspect's threat level, yet this variety of threat assessment is only applied to less severe infractions. With relation to rape and murder, the serious nature of the crime means that the threat level is already assessed long before any form of psychoanalysis takes place. In reality, the investigator's primary purpose is to gain an understanding of the suspect's character, and then use this knowledge to try and influence both his reasoning and decision-making.
Olha isso, mano. É literalmente o cara tem que moldar o maluco, pô. O cara tem que fazer um puppet, tá ligado? Que isso é? Mais uma vez, se o cara não tá louco pra enfiar a mão nesse arrombado, eu sou uma bicicleta, irmão.
Anyways, I gotta go through a few things with you here. All right, obviously you're upset by what's going on. You're here for a reason, and right back at the beginning, the investigators and the case manager, the officer in charge, said that I'm going to follow the evidence and go where the evidence leads me. Okay, and now you're here because the evidence has led the investigators to you. All right, and then I get involved after that. There's been people that I work with in behavioral sciences that have been here from the outset of the investigation, but really at this point in time, I mean,
o cara tem café, o cara tem cobertor,
your history, there's very little on it. Like, so you've flown under the radar, you haven't had any major problems with the police, okay? But now all of a sudden you're involved in this situation, and it's a serious situation, and it's a scary situation. I'm sure you're quite upset and quite concerned about what's going on here. All right. Now the last one I was involved with like this, I don't know if you're aware of it, was a girl named Holly Jones in Toronto when she went missing, and the guy that had abducted her, his name was Michael Briere. And what he was doing is he was watching on his computer for hours and hours and hours. He was looking at child porn to the point that he decides, I want to go try this. And he goes and he grabs Holly and he does some things to her, and then he realizes, what am I going to do? Okay? And he panics. He doesn't know what to do because she's a witness now. And he says, if I just let her go, she's going to tell on me. So he decides that he's not going to let her go. All right? And all that was from something as simple as watching child pornography for hours on end. These things happen, okay? And we can't say it happened close to home. Toronto's not that far from you, okay? These things happen all the time, all right? So what I need to do is sit with you. I already know how. I know the who's, right? Why? I mean, why is up to you, but I can actually probably fill in that.
Tem que descobrir o porquê que o Magrão fez isso. Bizarro, pô. Surreal.
Assess risk here and see, number one, do you even feel bad about what you've done? That's the first thing I look for. And number two, do I think, okay, he doesn't feel bad, so in turn he's probably...
Cara, eu não consigo, sei lá, que leva o cara a realmente fazer isso? De verdade, assim.
I'm gonna do this again because he really doesn't care about it the first time it's happened. Okay? I'm not at all upset with you. I'm not mad at you.
Olha isso,
I
o
don't
cara
mind
tem.
sitting
Que
here
não tá,
talking.
irmão.
You'll know if I don't want to
Tem
talk
que
to you,
enfiar
I'll simply leave, right? From
socão.
reading about you,
No mínimo.
this to me seems like it's out of character. Now I could be wrong, right? You may have been planning this for a long period of time, and you may have thoroughly enjoyed this. And if I'm wrong, then you tell me that, all right? But I also know that we all make mistakes, okay? And that's why pencils
irmão.
have erasers.
Porra, a gente comete erro. Beleza, pô. Eu também acabei de errar no termo, tá ligado? Maluco. Vou nem falar essas palavras de novo, irmão, porque.
Okay, because we all make mistakes. It's that simple. Spending time with you here, and if I'm wrong, you tell me. But it looks like if you could turn back time, maybe there's a few decisions in life you'd made a little bit different.
Porra,
Right?
será?
If I could turn back time for you, I
Será?
think I would. But it's not that simple. Okay? So now you and I have to sit here and face what's happened. Okay? I can sit and tell you what happened. I can take you through the day of her disappearance. Okay? I mean, I've seen the video. All right? And I know that you didn't do this alone. And but at the end of the day, we got to deal with this situation. Okay? Because it's a young girl that we got to talk about. And if you and I don't sit and talk about your side,
Cara, o cara já tá 11 minutos.
right? It's human nature, right? You've done it and I've done it. We always
11
think the worst
minutos
before we
falando,
do
irmão.
the
Tem noção
okay?
disso?
So that's what you and I need
E o maluco
to
até agora não reagiu
discuss
nada.
and work through. Again, if I'm wrong, you tell me, okay? But I really believe if you could turn back time, you would deal with this a little bit different, okay?
Tentando fazer o cara se
It may have been
comunicar,
a
né?
rush, it may have been exciting for a period of time, but then reality sets in. You have to sit and live with the fact of what's happened here, okay? And that's what we're doing here. We have to sit and deal with what's happened. Really, at this point, what you have left is your word and your credibility. And people always think the worst, okay? Until they know the
Olha
truth.
isso.
You do
O
it,
cara
I
tem
do it. It's
que,
human
tipo,
nature.
dizer que o pessoal não. Porra, mano, cara, é muito. O cara tem que dar um. Pô, é muita volta. Que isso, irmão? Tá de brincadeira comigo.
If it wasn't your idea, then that's fine too. But we can't change what the case facts are, right? You know deep down that this is your chance to get it off your chest. You're not sitting there the rest of your life saying, I guess I should have said something, all right? I guess I should have got it off my chest and said my side. Because this is your last chance to do it. The fact that you're here and the fact that they've already, they know where the victim is, okay? And they know your steps. This is it. You have to take the steps now to live the rest of your life, okay? This is what you have to do. You and I need to talk about this, okay?
It's always interesting to examine a suspect's demeanor while being
O cara tá
interrogated,
aqui, ó. Ah, tá
especially
de
compared to how
brincadeira,
they
meu.
most likely
Oh,
were
meu
while
querido.
committing their violation. The suspect here is a quivering mess, acting like a helpless victim, wallowing in his own self-pity while vying for sympathy.
Ah, tá.
Essentially the opposite of how he was while attacking Tory Stafford. It's ironic that the powerless and vulnerable complexion he is trying to portray here is exactly what his victim would have felt at the time she was attacked. The sympathy he is trying to garner for himself is clearly what he lacked for the 8-year-old child he raped and murdered.
So I've got to determine, as part of my job, when all is said and done here, do I think Mike's done? This is it. He's made his mistake. He realizes how wrong the mistake that he made, and he's willing to look past it. Or do I have to sit
Mano, o
here
que
and
que
say,
passa na cabeça,
"All right,
bicho? O
Cortes,
cara não
consigo
vai
essa
pensar, nossa, eu vou ser
mistake,
pego.
reoffend."
Nossa, eu tô fazendo um
That's what our
bagulho
job is, to deal with
absurdamente
this
abominável.
situation
Caralho, irmão.
and the reasons
Tá de
why
brincadeira,
people
pô.
do this stuff.
Tem um cara de otário?
Like I say, this
Oh,
may have been a
isso,
thing
bicho.
that you just snapped and did something. That stuff happens. Or it may have been something you planned
Pô, tem
for
todo um
many
processo, tem
months,
todo um
enjoyment.
tempo, velho. Ô, que doideira,
didn't
irmão.
do anything.
Well, that's not entirely true either.
That is
Okay.
entirely true.
No.
I didn't do anything.
No, you can try and cement yourself into that, okay? But at the same time, you're not doing yourself any good by not being truthful here, okay?
The investigator wants to come across as empathetic and understanding, yet still needs to keep the suspect's confidence low. He watches for denials and stops them immediately. Letting the suspect deny his guilt will only increase his morale, thus increase his psychological endurance and constancy for self-preservation. This
Se o
needs
cara
to be
fala que isso não
stripped
é
away
louco.
as much as possible, as early as possible.
Because by not being truthful, all you have left is your credibility, Mike. That's all you have left, okay? You're not the only person who's been arrested and charged, okay? And there's no and she's been identified.
Caiu e voltou. Voltou? Só dá um ok aí que eu volto daqui. Pô, não sei que horas que, né? Não é muita coisa, vai. Voltou, né? Então segue o jogo.
As her and Tory being in your car, and the three of you and her and Tory, go to the Guelph area, go to the Home Depot, okay? And the grabbing of Tory, there was a planned event that you were going to grab her. You're going to grab a girl, but this other person was going to do it, and the other person got the girl, put her in your car, all right? And then there's other steps that are taken from there. Okay, there's things that happen at Home Depot. There's things that happen outside at Guelph. And there's things that happen to Tory, all right, before she's gone. And you're involved in that. And you can't mask that. You can't change it, okay?
Cabeça pra baixo, para a mente envergonhada da merda que fez, né? Claramente, não tem como não, impossível, né, irmão? Impossível. Oh, isso, doido.
There's no doubt in my mind, okay? There's no doubt in my mind that you're involved in the abduction, okay, of Tory. No doubt in my mind at all. I've followed the evidence. I've read the file, okay? There's no doubt in my mind. We're past that, okay? And the only concern or the issue that I have is why you did this. What caused you to do this? Was it something you...
E essa é a parte que eu acho mais foda do rolê. Entender o porquê, velho.
Am I sitting across the desk from Paul Bernardo here?
Não que exista um porquê, né? Mas tentar entender qual é o porquê.
And that's going to be the question that's asked of you. All right?
Deu pra entender o que eu quero dizer, né?
You gotta get sick, fill your boots, sir. Okay. I've seen it before. You're not going to offend me or bother me. So if you got to be sick, Mike, go right ahead. Okay. I'll get you some paper towels or something. If you feel like you're going to be sick, just grab the. I'll have the bucket there handy for you. Okay. Just leave it right there. You and I
deve ser muito doido também, porque pensa, o cara tá aqui, tudo bem, né? Deve ser numa delegacia, num bagulho assim. Mas o que impede o Magrão ali vir também, ele dar uma loucuragem nele e querer partir pra cima? Pô, até chegar alguém, velho, dependendo do que tiver por perto. Café quente, o Magrão chega e arremessa o café quente na cara do Magrão. Pô. Tá ligado? Pode acontecer, velho. Sei lá, eu acho muito doido também. Os caras têm muita confiança. Tudo bem, eu imagino que seja, né, até pro cara se sentir confortável pra querer ir se abrindo, né? É, tipo, entender o que leva, exatamente. Tipo, pô, não, nenhum porquê vai ser justificável, tá ligado? Mas pelo menos entender o porquê que isso aconteceu. Não existe um porquê justificável.
This is reality, okay? And people are, I've already told you, you know this. People assume the worst until they know the truth, okay? And people are going to assume the worst of you, unless you and I sit here and clarify it. Okay, something's pushed you to do this. Okay, you can't just fly under the radar your entire life. Okay, Mike, it doesn't happen. It's not realistic. Okay, I'm not going to sit and tell you that it happens. Something brings this on. And when you sit and talk to someone who had a troubled life like Michael Breer and just gets pushed into doing this and panics and thinks, what would it be like to take a kid and touch and rub a kid and then wish you could stop, okay? And people can't, and that's the whole issue here. Right?
The detective seems to be almost rambling here, but this is a common strategy used to keep the suspect's mind racing. When Rafferty is concentrating on what the detective is saying, it doesn't give him a chance to conjure up his own thoughts, making it very hard for him to either think up a lie or disassociate from the situation altogether. It's a methodical process of breaking a suspect down through mental exhaustion and slowly chipping away at his psychological stamina.
E isso é uma parada que os caras fazem bastante, pô. Sempre tenta levar o cara à exaustão mental, tá ligado? E daí, irmão, o cara só age, né? Não tenta bolar uma ideia.
Because I can walk out there and never see you again. Like, I can do that. Right? My job here is done. The job here is done, as you'll find out tomorrow, as things start to be released. There is no more questions. There is no more long drawn-out investigations. They're already sending people home to spend time with their families, okay?
O que será que tá passando na cabeça do cara, velho? Eu sei lá, me pergunto esse bagulho assim. E, mano, muito doideira, velho. Muito doideira.
Okay? With what happened here. You and I have to sit and say, this is what pushed Mike over the top. This is what pushed Mike to get involved in something like this. Because if we don't, then you sit here on your own and you...
Ah, pode dizer, mas pra que eles querem descobrir isso? Não é mais fácil simplesmente botar o maluco numa parede e fuzilar? Fácil é. Mas por que os caras fazem isso? Pra tentar cortar lá embaixo antes de acontecer um crime como esse. Ah, não entendi. Vamos lá, deixa eu tentar explicar resumidamente. Por que eles, por que eu particularmente prefiro quando eles prendem um moleque que entrou numa faculdade atirando do que eles matam? Porque eles fazem esse tipo de investigação para tentar identificar o que causou até ele chegar lá e tentar cortar na base o rolê. Nossa, na minha época bullying podia e era todo mundo amigo. Pô, vai tomar no seu cu, antes que eu me esqueça. Tá ligado? E digo isso sendo um ex-bully, né? Eu fiz muita merda em relação a isso. Então, eu sei como prejudica um ser humano fazer isso. Mais de um, no caso. Infelizmente.
You need to be realistic about this, okay? You have no battle plan to deal with this, right? It's happened, it's spun out of control, and you're thinking, okay, if I ever get caught for it, what am I gonna do? Well, your plan isn't gonna work, okay? Because you're not built for this shit. This isn't what you're about, okay? You're not some sick bastard, right? That sits there and gets...
Aparentemente é, né, irmão?
All right, so now you have to live with this, okay? And to live with it, one of the first ways, right? It's like if someone's an alcoholic, what's the first thing they have to do? Acknowledge they got the issue, all right? You have an issue here in that there's overwhelming evidence, compelling evidence that indicates you're involved in what's happened to Tory, okay? And I can't change that and you can't change that at this stage. But you need to be honest and you need to understand your credibility, Mike, is all you have left. All you have left from here on in is your credibility. And you sitting here saying nothing doesn't do you a bit of good because no one's gonna know. And then...
Bom, deixa eu situar quem tá chegando agora. Isso aqui é uma... Acho que eu já comentei com você, inclusive. É basicamente um acusado de um crime nesse caso. Eles já sabem quem é o cara e o que ele fez. Nesse caso em questão, é o estupro e a morte de uma criança. E o cara tá em negação e toda aquela parte. Então, né, basicamente a função do cara de preto aqui, que seria meter a mão no cara do cara, mas não é, né? Ele tá fazendo a parte forense da brincadeira, né? De entender o porquê, todo aquele rolê, né? Por trás de toda a investigação, né? Até por cara confessar a culpa, e aí isso facilita muito mais no tribunal, aquele rolê todo. E é isso. Basicamente é isso. É muito massa, esse canal aqui é muito massa. Tem outros canais ali, eu vou trazer mais vídeo desse aqui, porque eu gosto pra caralho disso aqui. Mas hoje também teremos o quê? Vergonha alheia no TikTok.
All of a sudden, 10 years from now or 5 years from now, you decide to say something? Who's gonna listen? Nobody, okay? This is your chance to say your piece, all right? Like I say, if you want, and you can see probably I'm trying not to out of respect actually for you, but I can sit and get as graphic as I want, okay? Because none of this stuff bothers me because I've seen it hundreds of times, okay? But if I sit and relive what...
É muito aterrorizante isso, cara. Imagina, o cara já tá 17 anos fazendo isso, irmão. Olha a quantidade de maluco que ele já não... Ele já não... Teve que fazer entrevistinha.
I don't think that's you, okay? You're not some sick guy, okay? I'm not sitting across from Paul Bernardo, okay? I know that.
Paul Bernardo. Grava esse nome aí pra eu pesquisar depois.
And I know two officers that have in different stages of their lives, okay? And I know what he's all about. You're not that guy, all right? But at the same time, you can't just sit here and say, well, I hope this all goes away, right? This isn't like a list your girlfriend gives you to say, here's a list of things to do. Can you go pick up a few things at the grocery store for me and get some gas?
Escreva-se Paul, né? P-A-U-L.
We need to deal with reality.
Paul Bernardo.
And the reality of it is your credibility is all you have left at this point. If you sit there and say nothing, everybody's going to assume the worst, okay? And you may be painted with a picture that you're not real
Cara,
happy.
o cara tá há 26 minutos olhando pra baixo, irmão. Até agora. 26 minutos.
Why do you think that is? Right? Because they've been working at this for weeks, okay? They're tired and they've been away from their families and none of them want to come in here and talk to you.
Cara, deve ser muito exaustivo ser o cara de terno também, mano. Porra.
Been involved in things far worse than what they're saying you did here. Far worse, okay? And I can sit and list the things that I've been involved in, or people have done things that have been a threat to our national security, terrorism in Canada. Where I've dealt with people
é em Ontário, né? Ontário. E aparentemente o cara de azul acha que eu sou um otário, né? Ele disse que ele não fez, inclusive.
I've dealt with many people who are sex offenders that habitually and repeatedly touch and molest children. I've dealt with that. That stuff doesn't bother me, okay? But what's going on here is...
Vamos deixar claro que ele fala que isso não incomoda ele, mas é óbvio que isso incomoda ele. O fato que ele tá falando isso é exatamente pro cara se sentir mais à vontade, tá? Porque daqui a pouco vai surgir, você que tá vendo no YouTube vai falar, caralho, isso não incomoda o cara, então eles são amigos, são parça, são brothers. Não, né, irmão? Tá? Isso basicamente é rapport, né? O cara tá tentando criar uma conexão com o filho de uma puta, né? Vamos deixar isso claro, porque daqui a pouco brota, né? Sempre brota o haterzinho, né? Pô, né? Pelo amor de Deus.
You don't know what to do. You don't know whether to sit here, shake, shit, puke. You don't know what to do. But the reality of it is, at the end of the day, the evidence is the evidence. Okay?
Verdade. E a evidência é que ele matou. Ele tem até testemunho da namorada dele.
Okay. And I also know that she's no longer with us. Okay. And you're responsible for that too. Okay. And there's a sexual component to this as well. So you might want to sit and get this off your chest and go through your side with me. All right. Because if I just walk away. At minimum, that's what people are going to think. At minimum. But you have some explaining to do. Okay, that's reality.
30 minutos falando.
If this is something that got out of control, that you just planned on taking her and you thought you were going to put her back, or just take her for a ride, that's fine. It got out of hand, then we need to talk about that. Okay? You need to sit and explain that and say why. Okay? If not, then I say people think the worst until they know. There is no other way.
33 minutos.
You don't have any other option.
Quase
There's nothing
34.
else that you can do to change what's happened to her. We can't turn back time. However, we can explain how things got off the rails, whether it was something that happened slowly or just went right off the rails right from the beginning. Why do you think the OPP has a behavioral sciences section? This is all the stuff that we deal with, okay? We deal with occurrences that are unusual. We deal with situations that aren't regular situations, and that's not what this is. This isn't a regular situation. This is a couple of people that made a series of decisions that hopefully they understand aren't quite right and that they feel bad about. I don't think that you're some kind of monster. If I did, you'll find me pretty candid. You'll find that I'll come right out and tell you, Mike. Okay? I don't think that. Okay? I think this got out of control.
Nossa, mano, chega a dar um ruim, cara. Por mais que eu saiba qual é a real utilidade disso na conversa, tá ligado?
You made a mistake, right? This is a mistake, right, Mike? You'd take it back if you could. This is a mistake, right, Mike? You'd take it back. If you could turn back the hands of time, Mike, would you do this a little bit different? Mike, talking to you. If you could turn back the hands of time, you're not some monster. You made a mistake, right? You'd take this back if you could. This is a mistake.
E aí, Ember, como você tá, meu parceiro?
I am no monster,
I know
but
you're
I
not a
did
monster.
not do what you think I did.
I know you did. We're past that. Okay,
No.
we're past that, Mike. Okay,
Mm-mm.
I know you're not a monster. If you did, if I thought you're a monster, I would tell you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wouldn't just walk out. I would spend some time with you. If I thought you're a monster, just because I want to see what makes you tick.
Gang, bro, 777, gang.
Qual o scan do dia?
A live é o scan do dia. Beijo no seu coração, Blin. 18 meses, meu parceiro. Tamo junto, meu mano.
This thing has consumed you.
Limado Perfections, cara, nem tô olhando pra mais nada, meu parceiro. Nada.
Right? Why is that? Because you're
Fui cancelado pelo moço. Porra.
up inside. Okay? You can't sit and say,
Cara, 37 minutos que ele não para de falar é muito mais cansativo do que eu fazer 4, 5, 6, 8 horas de live, irmão. Porque o peso da conversa é muito surreal, é. É isso.
All you've done is lay around in the fetal position since you've been here. That's not how innocent people act. That's not how people that are falsely accused of something.
Agora ele começou o ataque.
Possibly that it's freezing. I haven't eaten since noon. It couldn't be that this is all just a huge shock to me. No, it couldn't have been any of that.
Começou a falar, hein? Agora vem.
But it's also the fact that you're involved in it. It's probably all of that, Mike. Okay, the fact that maybe you haven't eaten that much and maybe you are cold. There's no question. The first thing you said to me was you're cold and hungry. So that's why I grabbed you that stuff, okay? And I'm willing to accept that. Maybe
ele fala que ele tá com fome e tem comida e ele não come.
There is a bigger,
Ah, calma aí, doidão.
issue here, okay? And it's the issue of the evidence. The
Falando,
issue
tá
of
achando que eu
your
sou cara de
fault,
otário?
okay? And we can't change that. I have no ill will, anger towards you. I have none. You don't make me mad. You don't upset me. Nothing like that. Okay. The only issue I have is I don't fully understand. I volunteered here to come here and shoot the shit with you because I've talked to people in worse situations than you. Okay. And like I say, you've been pretty respectful with me. You're not giving me a hard time. You're not being rude to me. So I'll sit with you because. But you know, the reality of it is I can walk away and you're gonna sit and deal with this on your own for the rest of your life. You're a smart guy. You're nobody's fool. You know the situation. You know you're in a tough spot. And again, this is your opportunity to say your piece.
42
But you got some
minutos,
pretty
irmão.
serious explaining to do here, okay? In the big picture. Now, without me, if I just leave you here, you got some stuff that you need to explain. I've acknowledged already what my thoughts are of you, okay? I've told you that from the beginning, that this is out of character for you, okay? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's why you don't want to talk to me, because maybe you're thinking, oh, you know what, Chris, you're wrong. You know, maybe I've done this before. Maybe I plan on doing it again, all right? I don't think that, but I mean, you could be sitting here playing me, right? How the hell would I know, okay? I can tell you that I don't think that's the case, because I've sat across from a lot of people, again, that have been through stuff a lot worse than you.
É, imagina a quantidade de história que esse maluco já não ouviu, velho. É isso, irmão. Porra. Aí já é psicólogo, né, viado? Que isso. Que isso, irmão. 17 anos fazendo isso, cara. Que isso, doido? Não, calma aí, pô. O que esses ouvidinhos já devem ter escutado, irmão?
And I never said for a second that you went and took that kid from the school, because you didn't. But that kid was taken from that school, all right, by Terry and put in your car, okay? And you were there, and you were part of when the kid was driven to Guelph, okay, in the Home Depot. And then from there, the kid, into the demise of the kid. But this is the stuff we need to explain. Nobody can control your destiny now but you, okay? I can. I mean, I've already told you, I've already put my cards on the table.
É isso, irmão. 1h, bicho. 1h03.
This is your chance, man. Do you not think you're gonna feel built?
E sabe o que é o mais louco? É que ele tá falando basicamente as mesmas coisas desde que começou o rolê, velho. Tudo isso pra não deixar o cara ter tempo de raciocinar, velho. 1h03 falando o tempo inteiro pra não deixar o maluco raciocinar. Deixar ele exausto.
You know what I mean?
Porra, eu não tenho nada a ver com o rolê, velho. Já é cansativo. Imagina a cabeça do doidão ali, cara. Isso, cara.
Why don't we just find a starting point and we'll do it? Because you're gonna sit and stew forever. Say, no, I should have said this or shouldn't I have said that, right? It's up to you. I mean, I've got situations.
Mas olha como a postura do cara já tá mudando também. Ele já tava aqui, ó. Já tá olhando pra parede. Mas já mudou, já não tá com a cabeça baixa.
We all have those experiences. But this is your chance to say your piece. All right? And I think you and I should take that chance. I think you and I should just sit and have that discussion. How is it going to get worse? Right? It can't. And obviously, to an extent, someone's put you in this position, right? And we need to deal with that.
You want me to tell you things I didn't do so I can get locked up for the rest of my life for this?
No, that's not. I don't want you to tell me things you did not do. No, I'm going to ask you a question. What's your biggest fear or your biggest concern now that you've been charged with this? What's your biggest concern here?
De novo, criando conexão.
I want to know what this girl Terry said.
Okay.
Tory, pra quem chegou agora, é a namorada dele. Que falou que pegou a criança, tem um vídeo dela pegando a criança, passando na rua, né? A criança tava no colégio, ela pegou a menina passando. Ela pegou a menina no colégio e passou na frente de uma câmera, e aí eles viram. E aí ela foi presa por outro delito, e aí confessou. E aí falou que levou a criança pro carro do namorado dela, que é ele. E aí ele fez os absurdos, né? Que a gente já ouviu e reouviu, e enfim, não vou ficar falando. Que é
She
o real.
acknowledges that she grabbed Tory and brought her to your car. That it was your wishes. That you sent her there with certain things that you were looking for in a victim. And she took her. And you guys drove on the highway and did the Home Depot thing, which I talked about. left the Home Depot, went to a secluded area. You had sexual relations with Tory, and Tory was killed.
Porra. Já é 19ª vez que eu escuto isso e aí não tem como.
This is as good as it gets, unfortunately.
Não tem como.
This is it.
Não tem como.
I mean, I can get into more detail if you want, but in a nutshell,
Por isso que eu digo, imagina a mão coçando que esse magrão de terno não tem, velho.
If there's other people here.
Normalmente aí muda a reação dos caras, quer ver, ó? Normalmente eles tentam olhar pros outros lados que eles não estavam olhando, ó. Vamos ver. Não. Porra, normalmente eles fazem isso, velho. Falhei, né? Falhei na missão, tentei dar um predict.
What's happening, man?
Errei. 1h30.
What's this process? What happens?
What happens next? After you and I are done talking, you go back to your cells. Tomorrow morning, you'll have what's called you'll be brought into court, and the charges will be read to you again, and there'll be a discussion if you get out of custody for bail, and then they may schedule a bail hearing to determine.
Sim, mas essa é uma das táticas, né? Porque, cara, vamos ser bem honesto, né? A cabeça do cara ali já deve estar um balão, né, mano? É muita informação. Pô, ou ele realmente tem algum rolê, né? Ou, mano, a cabeça dele deve estar um balão já, velho. O cara já deve estar exausto por si só, né? O corpo já deve estar exausto por si só. Imagina.
From the courts, the investigation will go on for a little while yet. There's a couple things that, as I told you, that need to be done. And then in the big picture, you're facing these charges. The reality of it is we can just sit and deal with the issue here, just as easy.
I'd rather deal with this issue in court.
The
Alright.
suspect remains unyielding after 95 minutes of psychological pressure.
Ele falou que ele prefere lidar com isso na corte, né? No tribunal.
So the investigators commence the next stage of the interrogation. They initiate the Mutt and Jeff technique, most commonly known in pop culture as good cop, bad cop.
Hey, Sam, how are you? Remember a sec? I understand Mike here wanted to see what Terry Lynn had to say. Mike, Terry Lynn's still speaking to my partner, okay? This is the girl you killed, all right? She's not missing anymore. She's dead.
Paulada ainda
Terry
começar.
Lynn was asked today
Vai começar a loucura.
if she wanted to call a lawyer.
É muito errado, porque, pô, mano, é muito. Ai, cara, porra. Se fuder, cara. Assume teu BO, maluco.
Four
Porra.
times. She said
Desgraça.
no all 4 times. She went through 2 boxes of Kleenex. All right? She says on the 8th of April, Wednesday the 8th of April 2009, at 3:30 in the afternoon, you drop her off at Pavey, south of Fife, south of the public school, where Tory walks out of. You tell her to get a girl, and you want her young. She walks up the street, you drive up to the old age home where you park your car. She walks up to Tory. Tory's nice to her. She trusts her. She holds her hand for a little bit.
Foda, né, maluco?
She walks up the street with her.
Só mais um parênteses aqui, abre parênteses. A Tory. Não, a Terry, na verdade, que é a namorada dele, falou pra Tory, que é a criança, que ela ia mostrar um cachorrinho pra ela, velho. Olha que caralho, né, mano?
Terry Lynn tells her about her little dog, gets her across the street to your car, opens the back door. Tory doesn't like it anymore. She pushes her in the car. You start driving. She says she's freaking out. She says she's worried about you. She's scared about what you're gonna do. She says you guys hit the 401. You start driving to Guelph. You park outside a house. You go in for a little while. You come out with some drugs, she thinks.
Caralho.
And you drive to the Home Depot. You park at the end of the parking lot. You tell her it's her turn to get out of the car. You tell her to go in there. You give her some cash because you don't want to use your debit card, so you don't track it. She goes in there. She gets garbage bags like she's told to do, and she comes back out. Then you go driving. And you pull into a farmer's field, right across from a house, to the point where you're even asking her if anybody can see you. And what does she do? She says she goes for a walk because she doesn't want to see what happens. And then she comes back. And you're not sitting in the front seat anymore, Mike. You're sitting in the back seat. And she's not liking what she sees. So she walks away again. Then she comes back, and you make her hold one of those garbage bags while you put some of your clothes and her jacket and hammer in the garbage bag. Then you drive to a gas station.
Senhora.
She never sees Tory again. You drive to that gas station, you get out, you wash up, you dump the bag. You drive back to Woodstock. That's Terry Lynn's story, Mike. That's Terry Lynn's story while she bawls her eyes out through 2 boxes of Kleenex. And I ask her 4 times, hey, you want to call a lawyer? She says, I don't need to call a lawyer. I feel so bad about what happened. I just want to tell you all about it. That's what you're up against.
Terry Lynn's a liar.
Well, you're the only person that can tell us that, bud.
I just did.
You gotta be careful though, Mike, because some of the shit she said is backed by not just video but other evidence, but also some of the explanations that she gave as well are verified. That's
Tem muito o que dizer nesse momento, né, irmão?
more graphic than I said it, but yeah, there is some stuff that she says that is true. There's no question. I'm not gonna say it's not. But
How old are you, Mike? 28 years old? You want to tell us your side of the story? Get rid of your fucking security blanket and start being a man.
Lembra do Bad Cop?
Because
É
it's
agora
not
que o
going
cara
to be her
começa.
semen that we find on her body. When we look at the areas underneath the parts of the seat that you cut out, we're going to find her blood. Do you know how blood works? Do you know about red blood cells, white blood cells? White blood cells are thinner. They look like spit when they're separated from red blood cells. They're the ones that seep through into the foam. That's what we get the DNA from.
Ih, toma
Skin
essa aula.
cells from her rubbing up and down against your seats in your car. Tory Stafford is all over your car. All over it. And Terry Lynn explains everything that she knows we're going to find. You're explaining nothing. So I don't give a fuck if you say one more word, to tell you the truth.
All right, we're done then.
Well, I'm done with you anyway.
Okay.
This officer here is
Caralho.
trying to understand what the hell you're going through. I don't care.
Who are you?
I'm the lead investigator here.
Okay.
Começa
Terry Lynn's full of
confrontada.
shit.
Well, that's going to be a funny thing for you to say in court, isn't it?
No.
Because how's the DNA going to be full of shit, Mike? Huh? How's the biologist from the Center for Forensic Sciences going to be full of shit? How's the pathologist that examines her body going to be full of shit?
Isso o que exatamente?
Explain that to me.
I'll be careful, Mike. That's a dangerous road to go up. If there's something that you and I can clarify with what she said, then let's clarify it. But we can't just sit here with a blanket statement that she's full of shit, because there is some things that's truthful. And then by you saying that takes away your credibility. So we gotta be very careful with that.
I'm done with him.
Yeah.
This officer's got his job to do, Mike. He's got a different job than I do. For my investigation, you keeping your mouth shut is the best thing can happen. So keep on keeping it shut.
Okay.
É doido, é, porra.
The theory behind good cop, bad cop is known as the fear, then relief response. It's believed that when the immediate shift from one emotion to the next is so extreme, a suspect can become disoriented, and their ability to think critically can be affected. This specific state of disorientation makes compliance more likely, as the rapid change of emotion can evoke the feeling of uncertainty, and a suspect's positive response to an oncoming request is a form of coping with this uncertainty. This is of course not a guaranteed system, and a suspect will not always respond in the desired manner.
Well, you know more than I told you anyway. It wasn't quite as eloquent as I would have put it, but anyways. At the same time, what he's saying is right. Like, I did watch what she was saying, and she was very emotional, there's no question. And she did go through Kleenex, there's no question of that. And she was upset, and there's stuff that she said that, I mean, was clearly known ahead of time by the investigators, and there's stuff that was said that by her saying it later proved out to be confirmed other ways. So don't no, I can't say don't, you can do whatever the hell you want, but just be careful going up that road. Anyways, but like I said, I have no issues.
1h43.
That doesn't change my opinion from our discussion, to be quite honest.
Vamos passar um WD-40 na cadeira, né, irmão?
Sick of listening to me.
Sem querer ser chato. É, por favor aí. Atrapalhando a minha audição.
Like I say, I've got no, I'm not pissed with this. I'm not, but like I say, this is your chance.
Caralho, irmão, tu não vai ceder mesmo, seu filho de uma puta.
I'm sitting here willing to listen to it.
Well, he just told me not to say anything more, so.
Well, it's up to you. You don't say anything to him.
That's what
but
he said, though.
He
So
doesn't want you to talk to him, but that's fine. I'm still interested in listening to you. Don't want to talk about the part of
Olha o... né? O remeleixo.
We can discuss that and see what your thoughts are there.
I'm not saying anymore.
Why?
Because of the officer, because of what the lawyer said. Now it's everything. I just don't.
What do you think is going to happen next?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Someone runs in here and starts barking.
Da puta, né, irmão?
You just want me to say whatever. You just want me to say things. So it's open and closed.
No.
So it's over and done with. That's it. This is how it is. Nothing more to talk about.
No, actually, because you know, actually, that's fair. That's a very fair statement, actually. But I got to tell you, in this case, it's not. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I'm compelled and I'm interested to listen to what you have to say. But does it open and shut this case? No.
I'm done.
Why?
I'm not talking anymore.
How come?
I've already told you why.
Just because of all the different angles and all that?
I just don't feel comfortable talking about it.
Será que tá vindo?
Or then I just leave it like this and you're gonna ride it out from here, see where it goes?
Yep.
You think that's the best way to do it?
I don't know. I've never been in this chair before. I don't know.
Vou dar uma pelinha aqui. Tomar no meu cu.
Any questions of me?
No.
Need something to eat?
Yeah, but you don't care if I need something to eat.
Why would you say that?
Because you don't.
I wouldn't ask if I didn't care.
You're here for your job.
Nope. I could have walked out. I don't have to ask you because you got a phone right here, right? But the reality of it is, I know that you're going to go back and sit and sleep or do whatever for a while, and you'd be better to do it on a full stomach. That's all it is to it, man. But I don't have to ask you if you want food, but I am prepared to get you food. So
Oh,
that's
I can
reality.
eat, and then you can say, "Oh, look, he had an appetite. This is how he must have been feeling. Oh, he drank his tea. This is how he must be feeling." Forget the fact he's just starving and.
You're reading too much into it, man. No, that's not what it is at all. I offered you something to eat because I thought if you're hungry you can eat it. I don't care if you eat it or not, right? I mean, it's up to you. It doesn't matter to me if you eat or you don't eat.
And that doesn't go in anywhere in any of your
And that a new one or any of your
reports
What's that?
that I ate or not ate.
É.
This is on the video.
Perguntou se o cara botar alguma coisa relacionada se ele comeu ou não no. Ó. Esqueci a palavrinha, pô. No bagulho que ele vai escrever depois. Vai tomar no cu.
It doesn't matter, eat or not. I don't have to read any report. My report doesn't
Relatório.
say eat or not.
Obrigado.
My
Obrigado.
report says what we talked about.
Obrigado.
This is a very intriguing moment of the interrogation, as the suspect's state of mind seems to be in two places at once. He is undoubtedly clinging on to hope, made evident by his outright refusal to admit involvement, yet he still has situational awareness. He knows deep down that his act isn't being bought, giving reason for his guilt in requesting food. He would have been starving at this moment, yet his primary concern was how he would be perceived while eating. He is caught between wanting to satisfy his hunger and trying to appear so guilt-ridden by the circumstances that he doesn't even care about his hunger.
No, I don't. Like I say, it's your appetite at this point doesn't matter, really. I come in here, I sat to explain to you what the evidence was.
Falando essa cadeira tá atrapalhando, irmão.
Actually, I don't think there's any animosity between us. So we had a discussion about what the case facts are.
2 horas quase falando as mesmas coisas.
If you eat or not, but it was a legitimate offer. If you want something, I'll arrange for you to get it. There's no issues that way. But you read too much into it, man. Do you want something to eat?
I need something to eat, yes.
Cedeu. Já fizeram.
Look at me. Take it easy.
Faz tempo, inclusive.
In reality, no food was coming. The suspect had it right when he stated that the investigator didn't care about his hunger, and he wasn't about to go out of his way to get a takeaway meal for a child killer. The Mutt and Jeff technique, although very well executed, was unsuccessful on this occasion.
Nossa, 54 minutos depois. No.
Hey, Mike, I'm a pretty get down to the facts kind of guy. I'm sure you've realized that from our brief encounter earlier, all right? This is not rocket science. I've got what Terry Lynn has told me this afternoon.
Eu acho que é a mina dele.
This is your opportunity. Terry Lynn's sitting right here. Tell us she's a liar.
Caralho, que
They've had no problem
confronto.
saying without her in the room.
Terry's a liar.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping.
I'm not even looking at her.
I don't need to look at her.
You haven't been looking at anyone.
I don't need to look at anyone.
See, Mike, I know what I was hurting when I walked in here, okay? And I'm not gonna pull any punches here, okay? I'm not gonna try and kiss your ass, all right?
Detective Smith's behavior in the following moments is not associated with any techniques nor strategies. He knows the suspect's inclination is virtually set and unlikely to be influenced any further from this point onward. The following onslaught doesn't have any tactical purposes related to the investigation. The detective has understandably become emotionally invested in the case and proceeds to give the prime suspect the psychological grilling he deserves.
I mean, let's face it, I'm a cop, all right? And the last 5 weeks, I've been trying to find out who killed an 8-year-old girl. Okay? And I know the guys from behavioral sciences, they got their thing, they're trying to understand why that's what they do.
You guys all work together.
Yeah, we do. They're good people, they know their job very well. And sure as hell, I'd like to know why. All right? I'd like to think that we don't have people walking around our communities who just because they're bored on an afternoon say, hey, why don't we grab that girl and rape and murder her?
Pesado.
Okay?
Nossa senhora.
I'd like to think that we live in a community where people think a little bit more about what they're going to do than that. Do you think you're coming off as an innocent guy? Do you think you're looking like somebody who's been wrongfully accused here?
Ih, deu uma
You
respirada.
want to see it however you want to see it. My lawyer, or the lawyer, instructed me to just say,
Yeah, I know, Mike. I know what your lawyer
Simply-
instructed you to say. But that doesn't make you an innocent man. That makes you a man who's saying, holy fuck, what am I going to do now?
É.
nothing I do is going to change your opinion. So I might as well just follow the lawyer's advice.
Caralho, o cara ainda tá
You're right,
resistindo,
Dad.
irmão.
Nothing you do is going to get you
cara
walking
tá
out of this police station
resistindo.
tonight without being charged with murdering Tory Stafford. You're right. You know how much media coverage this has. You know what the newspapers are going to do with this and to your family tomorrow. Okay? You think the cops are going to be talking to everybody you ever spoke to in your life? That's nothing compared to what the media is going to be doing. This is a huge story for them. This is the next Paul Bernardo.
De novo, Paul
Whether you
Bernardo.
like it or not, a girl and a guy kidnapping an 8-year-old girl and murdering her. That's one of the most sensational things that have happened in this province since Bernardo and Carla. going to be a frenzy, and you and I both know that.
3 horas. 3 horas.
You know what a psychopath is, Mike?
I have never met one.
Well, I just met one tonight.
I just find it funny how you can go full sure on something when you don't know.
Well, Mike, when somebody tells me that they were present when a man killed an 8-year-old girl.
Somebody told you that.
Mm-hmm. She did.
Okay.
When that happens.
O cara tá começando a falar mais,
You
hein?
don't say, oh well, maybe after we go golfing for the week, we'll go and see Mike and see what he has to say. That's not the way it works.
No, so let's just pick him up and then say, yep, you did it. Because that's obviously got to be the right way to go about things.
Yeah. So, the last thing I cover off with everybody I talk to in situations like this, Mike, is pretty straightforward, okay?
A hora que a tradução dá umas loucuradas.
McDonald have to be notified about this. Okay. First question out of their mouth is going to be what? Did they say why they did it?
I'm sure one of those two will have the answer for you. Why somebody would do it.
6 minutinhos só. Porra.
What are you getting at, Mike? What are you throwing out there for me, buddy?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're gonna talk to them anyways.
You know what, Mike? If you're going to claim you have no involvement whatsoever, don't play games with me and throw out little hints and see what comes of it.
There's no game. There's no little hints.
There's nobody involved in this except for you and Terry Lynn.
Olhando pra baixo de novo. 3 horas e 13 minutos. 18 minutos. 19 minutos praticamente. Caralho, 3 horas e 25 quase.
We're done.
Tá de brincadeira.
Is that what you said to Tory before you killed her?
Nossa.
We're done?
Funny man.
Que isso,
Funny
moço.
man. That's what you think this is funny,
I
Mike?
think you're a funny man.
I think you're a cold-blooded killer. Because you and I haven't
Que
spent too
isso.
much more time
0 a 100 muito rápido,
than
moço.
you forced Tory Stafford to spend in your car. You could have let her out anywhere along that route. You could have killed her without sexually assaulting her. And that's what I wanted to sit across from tonight. See what it's like to sit across from a guy who, when he abducts an 8-year-old girl, is so turned on by it that before he kills her, he has to have sex with her. So if you ask me why I'm sitting in this room, I'm sitting in this room for Tory. Making you squirm, putting you through some of the grief that you put her through.
Isso.
That's why I'm in here, Mike.
Esse magrão aí tá um pouquinho mais alterado, um pouquinho mais sincerão.
You are a sick puppy, Michael. Eight years old, Mike. 8 years old, buddy. All she wanted to do was go home, have a little party for her friends because her mom just redecorated her room for her. That's pure evil, bud. And that's exactly what the judge is going to see.
3 horas e 37.
That's what you are. No remorse, no empathy, no nothing. You're just hollow. The nice thing about the place you're going to be spending a good chunk of your life is they actually have glass cells. So you and Bernardo can make googly eyes at each other all day, whatever you guys do in there. So it's nice meeting you, Mikey. Enjoy the rest of your life. This is the kind of room you're going to be spending it in.
Essa respirada funda. Pô, 3 anos depois. Caralho.
And it was all for this little girl right here. Not just Tory, but for every little child in Canada that doesn't deserve what happened to her.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. 31-year-old Michael Rafferty has been found guilty of murdering, kidnapping, and sexually assaulting 8-year-old Tory Stafford. It's been nearly 10 very long weeks of trial in London,
Caralho.
which is where Laura Zilke has been covering this story since the very beginning.
In the courtroom, when the verdict was read out, there was a collective sigh of yes for each time one of those guilty verdicts was read out through friends and family. That came with the reading of each verdict. Guilty of first degree, guilty of abduction, and guilty of sexual assault. Lawyers from both sides of the story came out to speak with us as well. Their reaction, everyone appreciating that justice was done here, and every one of them also thanking the work that the jury had to do for having to sit through this case for, as you mentioned, Carolyn, almost 10 weeks.
It's been a long and difficult trial for everybody. The trial is finally over, so that's a good thing. But the verdict means that the jury has found that Michael Rafferty did kidnap, sexually assault, and murder Victoria Stafford, and our thoughts are with Victoria's family.
Is it a hard decision for you to take cases like this?
It's never easy, but honestly, I mean, somebody has to take them. I get asked that question more often than almost anything else. How can you do a case like this? How can you defend such a person? The reality of it is that everybody in our system deserves a strong,
Isso aí é isso que eu sempre falei, né, mano? Isso aí foi o que eu sempre falei ao longo do meu tempo no direito, né? Ninguém gosta de advogado criminalista até precisar de um advogado criminalista, né, irmão?
Just over a day of deliberations, they truly believed that this was going to be a guilty verdict. Then going into the courtroom, that simply continued. The relief that went over the
Porra, até a repórter tá aliviada, irmão. Também?
Unbelievable to hear the sighs that went through everyone in that courtroom. Carolyn.
Both Michael Rafferty and Terry Lynn McClintock were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years.
Que doideira.